I wrestled with artificial intelligence a little bit in the beginning in terms of how much to use it. AI can be used for good, it can be used for bad. You can fake people's voices, you can impersonate people. So there is the real dangers of that. Things that would have taken hours now can take minutes. You also need to be crazy. That's why it's not for everybody.
Hello and welcome back. My name is Isioma Afranokese. This is still African Discourse channel. And today we are at Future of Work organized by BTech Connected. And I'm here with Dr. Say. Let me pause. Dr. Say will tell us all about him, what he does, and then we'll get on from there. Welcome, Dr. Say. I'm very excited to have a conversation with you.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Can you tell us about you, what you do?
Yes, so I think I'll start off with just a little bit about myself. I'm Seyram Kekesi. I'm using my full name because my mother might listen and she hates when I use my short version.
It hasn't stopped even at your age.
So if I use the Say, he's gonna message me and say your name is Seyram. But unfortunately, because of where I've worked, most people end up calling me Say, which is why that also. Yeah. I'm the founder and CEO of Insightis Africa, which is a data intelligence firm. So we help all types of businesses solve their toughest challenges, from customer intelligence to strategy to data analytics. And then also we are coming out with some products or solutions which we then apply at scale.
Okay, so your company, what was the thought? What was the particular thing that clicked that you said, okay, I want to start a company in this industry?
Yeah, I think the last place I had worked before I decided was Meta. And after that, I needed a big challenge, right, to sort of follow that up. And I've been doing a lot of work in Ghana in terms of just consulting or even friends that I would consult for their businesses. And one thing that was always obvious to me was that we've not maximized our use of data. So we've not been very data driven in the way businesses operate. And when I say businesses, it's not just the big businesses, but even small businesses, even businesses that just exist in the mid-range as well, just don't pay attention to certain basic facts. And maybe in the conversation, I'll share like examples, but that was one of the big catalysts for me, that the ceiling was pretty high. Like there's a lot of room to grow. I was also aware that for the business to succeed, I would have to affect the ecosystem as a whole. So that has shaped how we approach, our business. It's shaped sort of the decisions we make. It's shaped what services we offer. It shapes what products we put available, etc. But the primary goal is to help make businesses make data-driven decisions on a regular basis.
Interesting. So how long has your company been in existence?
A year and a half. So it's
Okay.
still pretty new.
Can you tell me how far you have come, like from the start a year ago to now? What has the experience been like?
Yeah, I mean, it's been just like any other startup, right? So for starters, 90% of startups fail.
Yes.
So in the first 2 years, you're trying to make sure you survive. And that would give you, and then that experience gives you the impetus or the springboard you need to actually then go to the next level.
Yeah.
So I would say it's not been any different from what typically startups would go through. The difference is that we're a bit resilient. So at least with both the founders, so both myself and the co-founder, and then our COO, we have this spirit of against all odds, you make sure you exist. So that sort of helps you weather the storm. And in the beginning, you obviously have no clients.
Yeah.
So you have to sort of maybe do pilots, maybe, do other things that bring you into the room. And then, so seeing us start from that till now, where we've worked with banks, we've worked with hospitals, we still work with hospitals, as well as other companies. That's sort of the encouragement you need to sort of keep going on. But yeah, it's not been any different from every startup, but we're enjoying it. So that's the important thing.
Great. I like that you're enjoying it. Um, and in Ghana and the ecosystem in Ghana and the workforce, what do you see? Has there been some swift changes since you've been here, or the knowledge that you had before you started your company? What has changed? Is something even changing?
Um, well, I think it's a much different country
Yeah.
now than it was even 10 years ago. So the makeup of the workforce is different as
Yeah.
well. It's a much, 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 much younger workforce. With that comes its own challenges. One, enthusiasm, you do see that, because then that brings that the energy
Yeah.
that the our younger generation has is really admirable. But also, inexperience would
Yes.
also be an issue,
Yeah.
right? So you would tend to meet situations where you have to spend a lot of time to train,
Yeah.
many months. And then, as I was saying earlier, once you train, you can't really stop an employee from leaving. So you can end up in the same situation where you have to continuously be training. So you have to come up with clever ways to sort of keep retention. And also, I do feel most employees can see when you're genuinely interested in their development, whether it's for staying with you long term or it's for their next role. So you tend to engineer good faith when you look at it like that. But I love the energy. I love how they're adventurous. They'll
Yeah.
try something. That's something that I think is infectious for all of us. But there's the challenges of having to train for real.
All right. So, as a Gen Z myself, I truly understand what you're saying. There's a lot of energy, but then we also like a bit of experience, and you would have to go the extra mile to keep us in your company. Now, talking about you as an employer, what are some of the skills? You've already said that there's a bit of experience problem, but what are some of the other skills that you think it's been a challenge for you when it comes to the young people you're employing into a company?
Um, I think generally speaking, when you find the right people, they are teachable. So
Yeah.
you can teach them and get them. I think I shared the story of us having our interns that
Yeah.
joined us while they're still at the University of Ghana. And one of the things you see is that, yes, even though they come in as a blank slate,
Yeah.
by within a number of months you can truly see a very big difference, and that's probably the more gratifying part of the job, other than winning a new client or something. But that's really when you can see a big difference, and then they themselves express that they themselves can see a difference between the time they joined and now. The number of they've asked to take on more responsibilities themselves. So that's why I say, the younger generation is not a monolith. They, as long as they can buy into the vision,
Yeah.
you tend to see them really, put their all in, and they're fearless, and that's a good thing as well. It's a double-edged sword, but it's mostly good, because whereas some generation might feel a bit reluctant to express themselves, you are never really in doubt, with
Yeah.
this one. So
Uh, so just like doctor said, you need to be someone who is teachable, someone who is ready to learn, to get into the workforce. If not, all of that energy, all of that vibe that you're bringing, it's just a waste of time. You need to be able to channel it into what you want to do. Doctor, now let's shift from the workforce and talk about AI
Mhm.
and the data driven stuff that you do. Um, how safe is it? I've had earlier conversations where some people were like, "Ah, AI is too much. AI is too much. It's going to take our jobs." But
Mhm.
personally, I've also had conversations with people, major industry people that are very grateful for the
Mhm.
AI invention. For you and what you do, what is the influence of AI in your company?
Yeah, so I wrestled with artificial intelligence a little bit in the beginning in terms of how much to use it, because there's also, my doctorate is in psychology, so I tend to dabble a bit in human behavior. So there's also that feeling of, okay, is this just a lazy way to do things, etc. But the truth is that whether you use it or not, people you're competing with are using it.
Yeah,
Like you don't have the luxury of um,
choosing.
choosing sort of to ignore something that is going to become or has already become a very critical part. But it's a double-edged sword. AI can be used for good, it can be used for bad. For bad, it can be you can fake people's voices, you
Yeah.
can impersonate people. So there is the real dangers of that. That's why you hear a lot and a lot more noise nowadays about ethical AI or
Yeah.
AI ethics, because there has to be some way to govern some of the use. However, on the other hand, I don't think there's, yes, with the advent of computer decades ago, but this is even on a different, larger scale, in that there's never a time when you literally have everything, anything at your fingertips. Like,
Yeah.
that's what's so stunning about it, that you can literally have an agent that works for you without it being a person at a cost of either free or $20 a month.
Yeah.
And that, I think the implications of that are mind blowing,
Yeah.
especially for us, even as a company. The number of hours you save on basic things, drafting even proposals, what the format should look like things that would have taken hours now can take minutes once you prompt it correctly.
Yeah.
So the question is not if we're using it's yes, it's more how do we use it in a way that still allows us to put our imprint on things.
Yeah.
So it's in that case, we use it more as a tool as opposed to something we primarily rely on as the main driver. So for us, it can help summarize things. It can also help with transcriptions.
Yeah.
So, for example, when you do interviews or you do focus groups, sometimes you have very long,
Yeah.
audio, which now you can use to transcribe
Yeah.
to text. You can also have a lot of text, which then you use to do summarizations, which can go quickly. So, whereas at first you have a research project that could take 2 weeks, theoretically, once you've collected your data, you could have it in a day or two. And that's a very massive saving if you're a business.
That's incredible. Earlier, when I entered the hall, I think the topic they are talking about now is AI, human and AI integration. And the lady was talking about how as people we could integrate our imprints on what we give AI. As young people, we need to understand
Mhm.
what prompts to give to AI.
Mhm.
Because like you're saying, it is good, but then it also has its bad side. And as people, we need to make sure that we understand this thing enough to be able to control how we use it as people to our benefit. Now, my next question is going to be about as young people, what what skills when it comes to, because I read the in January, I read some portion of the future of work documents that was released,
Mhm.
and I realized that there's a lot of AI integration in our future? I
Mhm.
mean, we are seeing it now, but I know that in the future it is going to even be more massive. What kind of skills, what kind of knowledge, what kind of um, impact, what kind of things should, as young people, should we learn now so that in the future, when we are out of school or when we are even getting into the job industry, we have the correct skills to be able to manipulate how AI works?
Yeah, so I think we've touched on a couple of them, but obviously machine learning as a field in
Yeah.
itself is just going to keep being more and more important. But there are new jobs popping up like prompt engineering that are some of the highest paying roles within AI. Um, that people can start learning because the thing is we are at the beginning. It's only going to get even more intense.
Yeah.
And as the generation that exists at this time, this is when you should be looking to those new sectors that are popping up. So prompt engineering, machine learning, and then now even we have the very real prospect of, consumer robots.
Yeah.
So actually humans having their own robots at home, which already is existing in the States with Tesla and a couple other companies, but I think Boston Dynamics as well,
Yeah.
that have their own robots you can purchase. So that would mean things like robotics would be important. But I do think that AI is what has been the game changer in terms of new um, areas of
Yeah.
advancement. And if young people can look at all the different aspects of AI, like what it all entails, there are going to be lots and lots. Because remember, yes, AI is going to replace a bunch of jobs. However, it's also going to provide opportunities for new ones.
Yeah.
So the question is figuring out which of those new ones you want to do.
Interesting. Doctor, you did psychology, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So from the psychological perspective
Mm-hmm.
and as young people and AI, how are we integrating all of these three things? From your perspective as a doctor of psychology, how are we integrating all of these things?
Well, I think the jury is still out there. I think because it's still new, we don't have most of the answers for that yet.
Yeah.
Like, we don't know how it's going to play out. But there are different dynamics at play. One being that no one necessarily knows if the mass adoption of AI is going to undercut critical thinking. That's one major, major, major concern. And I would imagine even like the universities will be concerned about that. Um, if you have something that can just spit out exactly what you need or close enough, like even 80% of what you need, by just entering a prompt, it does all the thinking and the work. The question is, okay, so then what would we use our brains for? Right? So there is that dynamic that is a legitimate question. I don't know the answer to it yet. What I do know is that um, in psychology, we believe it's as humans, we are motivated to be cognitive misers. What that means is we are motivated to use as little of our mental resources as possible. That's our primary motivation. So I don't necessarily see how AI makes it any better, right?
All right.
But I also think that never have we had something that is so effective at doing the replacing.
Yeah.
And the key now will be figuring out, or for humanity to figure out, how do we balance that? Like, do we become like editors? Like, we focus our entire, attention on sort of reviewing what the artificial intelligence produces. How does this merge with our own thinking? How do we modify, etc.? Or do we just take the lazy way out? I suspect it will take some time to sort of get a consensus on how that will play out. But there are real dangers. No one really knows how it would play out.
All right. So, as an entrepreneur and a co-founder of a company, I'd like to know how psychology plays a role when it comes to your brand and your company.
Yeah. So when it comes to like the operations of the
Yes.
company, well, or how I run the company, I think there are basic, things about human nature that we all know. There are also cues that my training would help me figure out. The basic principles of motivation, basic principles of positive reinforcements. So whether it is rewarding people, and rewarding doesn't even need to be of material value, but even making sure you show gratitude for the work they've done or compliment the quality of work, etc. Those are all things that, yeah, my training does help me knowing exactly which buttons to push in that sense. But I think what I'm discovering in entrepreneurship is, yeah, yes, some of that knowledge helps me, but most of it is you just need to have a lot of leadership skills and business acumen, because at the end of the day, it's really about staying afloat, like financially. Like if you can balance the books, if you can keep salaries being paid consistently, then you're more likely to survive. But everybody in the first 2 years is trying not to be in that 90%.
Yeah.
So a lot of what you're learning, you're also learning on the job. Like there are things you cannot plan for. Like an employee can say they're leaving tomorrow and you've not planned for that. How are you going to? In fact, we lost 2 employees within a space of 3 months last year.
Wow.
And those were our 2 researchers. So we're without a researcher. We had to find a solution to it very quickly, and we were able to do that. But that's just sheer will, the willpower to make sure things, succeed. But you can never really be fully prepared. Like I keep saying, if I knew what I know now, I might not have done it. But you also need to be crazy a
Yeah.
bit. That's why it's not for everybody. You need to have a little bit. It's almost crazy to a point of delusional. There's something I always say, that it's always seems crazy until it works.
Yeah.
And that's sort of what I've taken. Like you have to believe in yourself so much that no obstacle can sort of knock you off what goal you're on. And so more than anything, I've learned more than I've sort of been able to apply.
All right. Talking of entrepreneurship, I know so recently I read a document that said that
Mhm.
Ghana is currently when it comes to the entrepreneurship, we are really growing in that area. There's a lot of people venturing into it. Is it that glamorous?
No, it's not glamorous, but the numbers are the numbers. So, like, we are very entrepreneurial, and it's actually led by women. Most of the entrepreneurship businesses, or most of the small businesses, are either women run or women led, and or women founded. So it does say something for sort of the quality of, or the entrepreneurial drive, mostly of the women
Yeah.
of the country. Um, but it's not glamorous, is not. That's why it's still a whole 90%, 9 out of every 10 startups fail, because it's just not that easy. But there's something to be said about the drive being there, and the fact that we just see the number of entrepreneurs rising. You just see new and new people going into different things. Now, that long term is good for us in the sense that these startups will become employers, which is where the real help is. Now, a lot of people don't pay attention to certain numbers, but they are very telling of where we are going. Um, Nearly 70% of our population is under the age of 30. Nearly half is under the age of 18. And I keep stressing that's really, really wild to think about. If we don't sort of solve or keep up with the unemployment issue and really solve it, it represents a grave threat.
Yeah.
It's also an opportunity. It means you have a labor force that's young, that can produce for many years to come. But if there are no jobs, what are they going to produce, right? So it's not glamorous, but there is something to be said about the drive
Yeah.
that makes people still do it, knowing that they could help themselves, they could also create jobs, and then help other people.
Interesting. It's been a very educative session with you. I've really learned a lot. Now, before I let you go, today we are talking about the future of work, bridging the gap between academia and then the job industry. So before you go, I want you to tell us, the Gen Zs, something, something they should do, something they should do different, something that sets them apart from others, so that when they leave the academia, it will be easier for them to integrate into the industry.
Yeah, I think the biggest lesson, and I've actually met a couple of really young people with bright futures here. Some, like, I met a guy that's still in high school who has done some coding and has a coding a platform that is being used by some entities. And to think through that, being in your second year in high school and having that's really
amazing.
impressive.
Yeah.
Right. So there is the talent that exists. I think the one thing that I can say is for them to proactively seek opportunities to gain practical experience.
Yeah.
Because until you are actually in there, you don't know how it works. So it may be one thing to be on the outside or to be in school while you're working on something, and then a very totally different experience once you actually are in the context of a company or you founded your own company and try to run it. One is that if you're a first-time founder and you've never worked, you're starting from a hole because you have no idea what a good company looks like.
Yeah.
You've never seen it before. So that's why we stress some practical experience. So even while you're in school, your vacations, you can seek internships. You can, some might be paid, some might be unpaid, but you have to have an idea of what the goal you're going with is. So seeking internships, seeking mentorships as well. It's not enough to just say, I want you to mentor me. You have to have a direction of what you are interested in, what specific thing you want, how you want them to mentor you. But my biggest message would be to seek practical experiences because that's what will put them ahead on the job market. On the job market, nobody is asking for your recollection or remembrance of theory. It's all about the experience on the job market.
Thank you very much, Doctor. A few weeks ago, we had a conversation with Akosia, the one who organized this program. And one of the things that she said was that you need the work experience before you start any company. You need to work for someone to understand what it takes to run the company, understand the perspective of employees and all of that. That is how you will be able to build up your own companies. And so I'm really glad that you reiterated that here. It's been awesome talking to you. It's been very educative too. Thank you for spending time with African Discourse channel. Before you leave, like we said, today is the Gen Z era. So we'd like to have your social media platform so that we can direct our people to come and follow you and learn from you too.
So in terms of almost everywhere, actually, my handle is Akorase. Akora is anybody that went to Achimota school has Akora attached to their name. So Akorasey. That's pretty much my name everywhere. And then our company is Incitus Africa. So if you search that on any of the platforms, you should be able to find it. And I've really enjoyed sort of coming to the Gen Z world for a day. My two Gen Zs at work keep me in the loop, but today I've come to the swimming pool and casa.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Say. I've followed him make sure you do so that you can get all of these insights from him. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. It's a
talking
pleasure. I
to you.
really enjoyed it. This is my first ever podcast in Ghana, so you're blessed.
Yeah.
I've deliberately stayed away from
Maybe later on we can also call you or come to your company and talk to you there so that we can have you on.
Very much so. Let's keep in touch.
All right. Thank you very much, Doctor.
All right, thank you.
All right. Have a good day.
All right.